Hi, my name is Dr. Nikki Usher, and I'm an associate professor in the journalism department at the College of Media. I focus on the intersection between news, technology, and politics, usually going inside newsrooms to understand how economic, social, and journalism routines themselves change and affect the way that news gets made. My teaching focuses on some of this research and some of these big questions. Some of my previous research has focused on the New York Times. In my first book, Making News at the New York Times, I actually went inside the New York Times for 6 months and chronicled 10 years ago their switch to becoming a digital first newsroom. The current project is a new book called News for the Rich, White, and Blue: How Place and Power Distort American Journalism. And in the book, I argue that the larger context of US social inequality and political polarization is also part and parcel being mirrored by the news industry itself. Between 2004 and 2018, more than 1,800 newspapers across the United States closed in local communities. And there's a real big question about what that means for the quality of local information for making basic decisions, not just about politics, but about what's going on at the school board or seeing your kids covered in high school sports. And so there's a real sense that there's a fraying fabric of community life that's associated with newspapers, especially newspapers, because newspapers produce the most geographically specific content about any one place. And there are a lot of reasons for this decline. Some of it is due to Facebook and Google, some of it is due to changes in just whether there are small towns that can support local advertisers like banks and independent pharmacies and so forth. But what we're really talking about is that the news organizations most likely to survive in the digital economy are news organizations with huge national and international audience that they can either resell to advertisers because of the huge scale or actually capitalize on these audiences' willingness to pay. As journalists cluster in these big metropolitan areas, when there's an emptying out of these heartland newsrooms, one of the big concerns is that we're going to get some blind spots about what huge swaths of the country are like. And when very talented national journalists go in to tell those stories, it's going to be rendered somewhat inauthentic because of their lack of familiarity with these places. So there are no local journalists left to tell local stories. There are national journalists left to tell local stories. And that's going to create a distorted impression of what's happening across the United States. And my worry is that if we don't change the current dynamics of the institutional news media, all we'll have left is news produced by an elite for an elite, perpetuating what I call an elite democracy. And I think that what we're really starting to see is that the future of journalism conversation is actually a future of democracy conversation. It's a future of America conversation. The same issues we see in journalism around winners and losers and geographic polarization and political polarization and social inequality, that stuff's happening in the news industry too. And so to have a conversation about how to make news better means having a conversation about how we deal with the tremendous inequality in the United States.